The Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, the venue for the 2024 Silverstone Festival, one of the world's greatest gathering of historic race cars. And our penultimate race is the Pure Michigan Mustang Celebration Trophy for Pre-66 touring cars. Sam Tordoff on pole in a Ford Falcon Sprint, but alongside him, Jimmy Broadbent, Jan Mardenborough in their Mustang. Spears and Greensall and Davison on row 2. This is a pit stop race. Most of the cars are two-driver cars, and there are a plethora of Fords, of Mustangs, of Cortinas, and of Falcons. In fact, everywhere you look, there is a blue oval. It is not exclusively Ford, however. There's a BMW, there are a few Minis, there's the Mercury Cyclone Comet, and there's an Alfa Romeo or two thrown into the mix as well. The Minis will be looking for giant killing acts against their period rivals, the Lotus Cortinas, but they're not going to hang on to the coattails of the big American muscle out front. The question is, what's going to come out on top? Yesterday's race was won by Sam Tordoff in the big Ford car number 600, the Falcon Sprint. But will it be him or will it be one of our Mustangs that comes out on top? And there are nearly 20 Mustangs on the grid, a handful of Falcons as well, and then a few more oddities further back. Recognisable shapes of lots of Lotus Cortinas, the Mercury Comet Cyclone. There it is, the bright blue car in the far background, the turquoise colour. Studebaker Hawk or two, a few Minis. There's all sorts going on here. But it won't be about the Davids here. It will be about the Goliaths, or possibly the Behemoths. Let's wait and see. Sam Tordoff in the puce-coloured Ford, and alongside him in Alex Brundle's Mustang, the Brustang, blue with the white Shelby stripes. That is Jan Mardenborough starting the race. Jimmy Broadbent will take over at the midway point. And then John Spears on the inside of row 2 with John Davidson alongside him in the red and gold Alaman Racing liveried Mustang. One of a number of Alaman Racing liveried cars in the field. Alaman's son Henry Mann is one of the drivers racing here, but not in a red and gold Mustang. So a massive field of cars. Alistair Douglas, 53 pre-66 touring cars. The grids now are just getting beyond all recognition in terms of size, quality, and quantity.
Absolutely, and look at all those V8 engines at the front, the Ford V8s in the Falcon and the Mustang.
Yeah, we need to go through, I should have done this last night with a calculator, and work out what the total cubic capacity of the grid is. It would be insane. The Pure Michigan Mustang Celebration Trophy race is underway here at Silverstone. The lights go out and away we go. 53 cars charged down to the, well, some of them are charging out the final corner. They charge down to the first corner eventually when they get there. Sam Tordoff taking the lead. Right behind him is Jan Mardenborough. No, there's Mardenborough on the right-hand side. We've got a Mustang off in the gravel. Mardenborough carried a little bit too much speed and went off. There's a Cortina off as well, and that means that's John Spears, the blue Mustang, in second place. The red 63 car with the gold roof, John Davidson in third. Mardenborough comes back on in fourth, and just ahead of Michael Whitaker Jr., I think. And where's Andy Prio got to? He's not too far behind, but didn't get the cleanest of starts. It was a little bit of argy-bargy in the first couple of corners. Alistair Douglas, this is going to take a while for them to sort themselves out. Just look at this massive, fast-moving metal.
Yes, the yellow Mustang of Alex Taylor did get shuffled out a little. The Falcon number 10 at the back of that leading group is Tom Sharp. He's driving solo, and he's right behind the Brustang, which, as you mentioned, has been started by Jan Mardenborough, who's been racing in GT cars for many years, and as he said, not used to these cars that don't stop and don't turn. But he'll get used to it by the end of this session.
He's learning fast. fast, isn't he? There's the 99 Mustang. That's the Taylor Prio car. Andy Prio will take over midway through from Alex Taylor, who's starting it, now finding his way past the best of the Lotus Cortinas. Again, you can see the Mustang seems to be a little bit better behaved than the Ford Falcon Sprint, and that's because it's about 2 yards shorter behind the rear wheels. The Falcon just goes on forever behind the driver. Nevertheless, Sam Tordoff has picked up his skirts and motored on. He leads car number 600.
And a very good start. Once again, we've seen John Spears make some great starts to these races, and Nigel Greensall taking over once again from John later in the race, down into the Vale, into Club Corner, and Sam Tordoff in the purple. You said puce, I'll say purple.
Right.
Falcon, followed by the pastel blue John Spears car in second place. Then up into third place now has come Jan Mardenborough. I think he's made his way through past at least 2 or 3 cars on that half lap.
Full pro driver, exceeding track limits on the exit of the final corner. It's Nigel Greensall who has started that car. So Nigel Greensall in second place. That's the blue helmet with the yellow stars on. That's definitely Greensall, not John Spears. Now I wonder whether John, having been in the last race in his front-engined Maserati 250F, had decided that there might not be enough time to get into the Mustang and start the race, or whether, as we saw in earlier races, he's just going to let Nigel do it on his own. We'll only find out at the pit stops, but it is Greensall in second place, Mardenborough in third, the Grey Falcon of Tom Sharp in fourth place, the red and gold car in fifth place is John Davidson, and then the white Mustang spitting flame so superbly. I wonder if they've engineered that in deliberately. That's Michael Whittaker Jr. So he is right there, and the black or dark blue car with the white stripe behind him, 198.
It's Julian Thomas.
192 rather is Julian Thomas, yeah, in his familiar colours.
Julian Thomas normally shares, but he's been, I think the whole meeting he's been driving solo, but we certainly weren't told he was sharing, so it will be Julian starting, yes, and you're absolutely right, spotting that helmet of Nigel Greensall in there in second place. Through comes Thomas, then the yellow car of Alex Taylor, and then next up after Alex Taylor is Craig Davis in his Mustang.
And then the Lotus Cortinas coming behind, the Shepherds, Gidding and Strother car. That's the pale green and white car. There it is. In fact, there's been a swap of positions as well, because the blue car came across the line in front. Guy Smith, the Guy Smith, yes, that one, the Le Mans winning Bentley driver, having like Jan Mardenborough, a rare outing here in a not quite so modern car.
He's battling with the leading Cortina. That's Jake Giddings, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jake started the 198 car, and look at Guy there taking the slipstream, pulls out as they get down to Stowe Corner. Maybe look for a cutback here on the exit of Stowe to take a slightly tighter line, but I don't think Jake's going to let him through. Yes, well, they are side by side, but Jake's got the inside. Sure, Guy's going to be able to get across, but now Guy's held out on the outside. Now he's got the inside for Club, the right-handed element of Club. What a lovely move. There's a great driver in Guy Smith. Worked that out right back at Stowe Corner, how he was going to get past Jake Giddings. And Jake Giddings doing a really good job as well. They gave each other space and they were right on their tippy toes. Of course, those Lotus Cortinas in just outside the top 10, but giving away about 3 litres to the cars in front. They are 1600cc twin cams, the Lotus twin cam. These cars with big block Fords, small block Fords, in fact, 289 Fords. So lots of power in the cars in front, and Jan Mardenborough using all of that. I'm not sure there's going to be much tyre left to hand over to Jimmy Broadbent, and they will not be changing tyres in the pit stops. Sam Tordoff still leads, and this big Ford Falcon Sprint belying its size in Sam's hands. He really makes it, it's almost like he's skating actually, rather than sort of twitches of oversteer. It's just slides beautifully through the corners. He really makes this thing dance. Yeah, he doesn't expend any unnecessary energy of himself or the car, just keeps that car just drifting. In fact, just thinking of a full lap in qualifying when it was a little bit damp, I think he was only straight on the Wellington Straight and the Hangar Straight.
And that was by accident.
Yes, everywhere else he was actually drifting the car.
Yeah.
In the dry, a little bit less drifting, just in the corners really, as he comes through across into Beckett's. Look at that, he sets the car up.
And that's what these cars are built for. You know, they're built with soggy suspension for American families. That's been stiffened up, but a cross-ply tyre does respond to being slid. A radial doesn't. Radial tyres hate not going in a straight line. And so you slide a radial and it gives up grip immediately. The cross-ply will just keep gripping and gripping and gripping. It doesn't have the same overall level of grip as a radial tyre, but it will allow you to slide and drift the cars. And that's why Formula One cars on those big round balloon tyres could slide. That's why Ronnie Peterson could hold those tyre smoking drifts, because the cross-ply would allow you, and those died when the radials came in, and with them aerodynamics, because sideways isn't good for aero or for radials. Jan Mardenborough with quite a lot of understeer there in the third place Mustang, car number 41, not hanging the tail out as much. Again, a little bit more of a single-seater driver maybe, trying to get the front to turn in rather than abandoning the steering and just pitching it at the corner.
And Mike Whittaker Jr. trying to get through on the inside of Tom Sharp at Abbey into Farm now, and Tom Sharp's held the inside line in the Falcon, but Michael Whittaker Jr. on the outside in the Mustang gets the place as they go into Village.
And that was absolutely the pitching it in, cornering attitude that you have to adapt with these cars. You saw Michael aim it inside the apex and just throw it at the corner, knowing that it would slide, knowing how much it would slide, that he wasn't going to hit the car on the outside, but that he was going to control the drift, and it would just clip the apex and away he'd go. And you'll see it again here. The battle behind as well is starting to liven up, but the big Falcon thunders its way around the outside, and again you've got to just throw the car a little bit at the corner. It's almost a little bit like an old school rally style of approach, where you've got to direct the front and then drive the back to follow it.
We should ask the Olympic Committee to start a new event, synchronised drifting, and then these guys can get in there and perhaps win a gold medal, because they're just riding close together but sideways, and they're not dropping the two cars behind. Julian Thomas gets past Craig. Is that Craig? No, that's John Davison, isn't it? So John Davison goes back a place. Julian Thomas moves up a place in his Falcon, and they are closing in, I think, on the two ahead, who are having a good old battle once more. Another Mustang and Falcon battle. Yeah, and this is absolutely classic big capacity touring cars, isn't it? Well, maybe the FIA Motorsport Games ought to start encompassing historic cars as well. We have the Olympics and the Paralympics. We've got the FIA Motorsport Games for all sorts of modern cars, but really this would be a crowd pleaser, wouldn't it, if they had the Olympic Games of historic racing? I mean, pretty much it is here at Silverstone. Of course, that's where the modern Olympics were created, not here at Silverstone, but in the UK. And so maybe we should just start the historic Olympics here and just rebrand the festival. Down into Club Corner, and Michael Whittaker lost out on the section at the other side of the circuit to Tom Sharp, but he's still trying, and he comes on a tighter line, comes up alongside Tom Sharp, and a lovely move there from Michael Whittaker Jr. Took the line away from Tom Sharp, and up the Hamilton Straight they go. But look at Julian Thomas closing in on Tom Sharp now, and taking with him John Davison in the Alan Mann coloured Mustang. That's the red with the gold roof. Isn't it interesting the way that such different cars, the Mustang and the Falcon, have very similar lap times, but they make them in such different ways. The Mustang seems to turn with much more alacrity. Of course, like I said, it's about 2 yards shorter than the Falcon, which has got an enormous pendular effect driving the rear wheels. But the Falcon, just if you could get it hooked up on the straight, just seems to have a little bit more get up and go. Maybe that was just Tom Sharp's car, but Michael Whittaker Jr. in the white Mustang, car number 49, now up to fourth and trying to creep away from the big grey and the big dark blue car behind. Julian Thomas looking at the inside.
I think that's more in hope than anticipation of anything happening, though. And Tom Dark in the big Falcon, he's in the tight stuff all over the back of the Mustang. I mean, all over the Mustang coming in there. And that's because he had a little bit more speed maybe at the end of the straight.
And once again, along the Heritage pit straight down into Copse Corner, and Michael Whittaker Jr. ahead of Tom Sharp, ahead of Julian Thomas, ahead of John Davison. Mustang, Falcon, Mustang in this particular group, and then another brace of Mustangs coming up behind, the first of which is another of the red and gold cars. That'll be Craig Davis, who actually didn't notice, but he qualified down in 17th. That was much lower than we'd expect. So he's putting in a bit of a recovery drive as they go through Beckett's. Michael Whittaker Jr. holding on to the lead of this group. This is for 4th place overall, and we're looking back at the leaders again. There's Jan Mardenborough, but here comes this 4th place battle. Michael Whittaker Jr. in the white Mustang ahead of Tom Sharp. Julian Thomas just moving to the right of the track, but I don't think that's in anticipation of a move. Probably just trying to cool the car as much as he can, the brakes and the engine.
I will be. There's a lot of heat coming out of those big twin rear exhausts like rocket launchers. Now then, that group behind are lapping in the 2-minute 30s. The lead group here, Sam Tordoff, last lap, 2-minute 28.6, 2-minute 28.4 for Nigel Greensall, and Jan Mardenborough being very athletic in the background, trying to get round traffic and losing the battle of adhesion, 2:28.7, but he's dropped back a little fraction. Sam Tordoff, fastest race lap the previous lap, 2:27.7, but Nigel Greensall is sticking with him.
Yes, they're very consistently doing similar lap times, and Nigel just staying with him. We're coming up, just under 2 minutes to the opening of the pit window, and they have 15 minutes to come in. So we'll start seeing cars coming in probably in about 3 minutes' time, and we'll find out then whether Nigel Greensall is going to do the whole race for John Spears. And there's the battle for 4th place again coming down the Wellington Straight. Michael Whittaker Jr. just being challenged a little on the outside by Tom Sharp. I'm not sure whether Tom's going to be able to hold that line all the way through. No, he doesn't. He has to give best. Then he comes back at Michael, but he holds the nice inside line. And now Julian Thomas sees a bit of a gap open up. A bit of a gap. No, I'll say a very big gap, because if you can fit a Falcon in it, it's a big gap.
Yeah, it really is. Unfortunately, not quite big enough. Julian Thomas didn't quite have enough of a head of steam. They're going past one of the little Alphas. That's another 1600cc twin cam, so that's the kind of power advantage that the big American muscle has. And the novices cross on the back of the Alpha. I know as a novice driver what it feels like, and everybody comes flying by your ears on both sides. And I haven't been in this kind of company either. I've been in very similar machines. So here's our race leader, Sam Tordoff. The gap just 8 tenths over Nigel Greensall. I wonder if John Spears will drive this, or whether he will just say to Nigel, go and get him and see if you can win this one, because this is going to be a fascinating battle. Sam Tordoff driving solo. Maybe Nigel will hand over to John Spears. Maybe he won't. We'll find out in the pit stops. Jan Mardenborough in 3rd should be handing over to Jimmy Broadbent. I'm sure Jim will be very keen to get into the car. Have we had our first pit callers? Not just yet.
Not quite open yet. Just as we say that, the pit window opens. So open now for 15 minutes.
Now, does that mean that anybody that now comes to the pit lane can go in, or do you have to go in at the end of the lap on which the pit window opened?
No, they can. The window is now open, right. So if you're coming up to the pit entry, you can turn in, do your pit stop. And it's a 60-second stop. There are some additional times, I'm afraid, for some drivers. I won't go into it, but some of the elite drivers, it will change the order.
There you go. Andy Prio's Mustang coming in, or the Prio that Andy Mustang will take over. Rearrange those words into a sentence that makes some sense. You saw the Guernseyman running round. He did the first stint yesterday and takes over now from Alex Taylor today. Alex doing the start today. Still this 4-way battle, and Michael Whittaker Jr. just can't quite break free. He's a tiny has a little lock-up himself, tiny distance ahead, but not enough. And here comes Tom Sharp, right with him again. So sometimes we've seen the Falcon close on the straight, sometimes we've seen the Mustang ease away on the straight, but again, that little mistake by Michael Whitaker in the white car with the black stripe, car number 49, just allowed Tom Sharp and Julian Thomas and James Davison to close in on him, so John Davison to close in on him. So the Pure Michigan Mustang Celebration Trophy race currently not being led by a Mustang, but they are in second and third and fourth and seventh. And there is nothing but a blue oval in the top 10 and below. So it is very much a Ford benefit. And this kind of reflects how the British Saloon Car Championship changed in the 60s with the advent of the big American muscle cars. It was previously the sort of remit of Jaguar and then the Lotus Cortina and the Minis, and then suddenly Sir John Whitmore came along with the Galaxy and turned the tables on everybody. Little mini retirement, and that is car number 22, which is Ellie Birkenhoff and Nick Topless's car.
I can remember spectating it must have been a Grand Prix support race at Aintree in the 60s when the Galaxy first appeared. Jack Sears at the wheel, and as a little lad standing at the side of the track, couldn't believe this huge boat of a car coming round, yet of course it was immediately successful, particularly here at Silverstone.
Yeah.
When it passed the Jaguars on this piece of track on the Hangar Straight, and Graham Hill looked to his right, couldn't believe Jack Sears was driving by him.
Yeah. Oh dear, the bonnet clasp hasn't quite gripped on that Mini.
That's the leading Mini, Phil Bullen Brown.
Yeah.
That's a good number plate for
it
Phil.
Is, isn't it? Especially if you're slightly tech speaker. And
he comes
Phil
into
193, hence the racing number on the car.
And the Shepherds are in as well. We haven't had any of the leading cars come into the pits yet, other than the Alex Taylor and the Prio car. A
couple of Lotus Cortinas, Guy Smith and Richard Dutton. The red car, or the white car with the red windscreen strip at the bottom of the shot, that was the Richard Dutton car. There it is on the left-hand side. And that's a car he used to share with Neil Brown, the late Neil Brown. Neil's name is still on the car. And along the side of it is, we will always race together, you will not be forgotten. So you will never be replaced. There you go. So long time around. That's a real problem for the car that was battling in that fourth place group. That is not coming in at racing pace. It is coming into the pit lane though, and that is going to be a major problem for Tom Sharp.
I think that's this pit lane, which is not the one they're using, I think, from the pictures we got just then. So he's got no crew to help him. Well, and
at the speed it was moving, I'm not sure there's any helping it either. Oh, well, hopefully it's not the Formula One pit lane, because that will be blocking the pit entry. Loads of cars are in now. This is David Tomlin's Lotus Cortina. David has probably been in half the races this weekend. It is almost underneath us. And that is the end of the race for Tom Sharp. So that is going to need breakdown Bob, but I don't think he's in our pit lane. Somebody else just came into our pit lane. Did somebody else just come under us, or was that actually out on the track?
So,
no. Okay, well there goes Mini number 101. That's the Woodrows sharing that car. And there's quite a few actually that we've seen out over the years. That's Stephen and Alfie Woodrow. We've seen quite a few family car shares. It's a great way actually of going racing as father and son, something like this, you know. Get a Mini. You could have bought a couple of racing Minis in the iconic auction on Friday for under 30 grand. Now I know that sounds like a lot of money, and it's not a small amount of money, but actually for about 5 or 6 grand you could buy yourself a Mini 7 racer, and then you could go out racing together. Of course, an FIA authorised Appendix K Mini racer is a slightly different kettle of fish, and will be probably extremely well prepared. Here's our race leader then, Sam Tordoff. Nigel Greensill still in second place. Jan Mardenborough dropping away 3.7 seconds back now, but they're all lapping at roughly the same pace. Tordhoff just a whisker under 2 minutes 29, Greensel bang on 2 minutes 29, and Mardenborough a whisker over 2 minutes 29 last time round. Mustang versus Cortina. That's another classic all-four battle. Guy's eyes are on Ollie Webb's car. There'll be Ollie Webb at the wheel now, I think, in that, well, it's probably not primrose yellow, because that's not a Mustang colour, but that pale yellow Mustang. And right behind is car number 17, David Tomlin. We just saw him in the pit lane. And didn't really talk about Ollie Webb yesterday. Hadn't noticed he was on the entry list, but a full-time professional driver, very experienced sports car race. And again, a little bit, I guess, like Guy Smith. This is all fairly unusual, but he does drive some fairly weird and wonderful machinery from time to time, Ollie Webb, and I'm sure he's thoroughly enjoying that one. Max Verstappen, hot shoe from the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort. He's not actually Max Verstappen, don't worry.
It's Harrison Newey.
It is Harry Newey, sharing with Ian Thompson. We saw his dad here yesterday. Or did we talk to him on Friday? The days are all sorts of blur into don't wander across the pit lane when something the size of the pit lane is coming in. Sam Tordhoff, the race leader, in the pits. Nigel Greensel stays out. That is basically the full width of the acceleration lane, isn't it? It's just enormous, this thing. Probably the size of a modern Mini, actually, isn't it?
And the leaf blowers there to just cool the front brakes on Sam Tordhoff's Falcon, but no work going on the car, just checks as they do their mandatory pit stop. See the tyre pressures being checked.
Yep.
But seemingly no problems at all. Maybe now a quick clean of the windscreen for Sam, get some of the bugs off.
Gone out to polish it. Right behind you saw the little Mini 102, Rick Turner and Bruce Galliford's car. That's come and gone. Yeah, trying to clear some of the bug squish and oil marks that are on the screen. After all, if it's sitting there for a minute, you might as well do something to it.
Registration number of the car, JCT 600, which is the family business of the Tordhoffs. It was Jack Tordhoff, Sam's grandfather, that started JCT. And, of course, one of the largest car dealerships in the country now, I think, if not the largest.
Michael Whitaker Jr. is in the pit lane as well. So too in car number 63 is John Davison, the red and gold Mustang that he was battling with. So Giddings and Strethrin as well, car number 198. That's one of the lead Lotus Cortinas. That was the rather nice sort of olive, greeny and cream cut. There it is. Second car up in your shot. There is the white Mustang as well, heading out Michael Whitaker Jr. 116 is in. So lots of our lead group coming in. Mark Matheson and Henry Mann. As I said, Henry Mann not in that car. Well, this is Richard Dutton driving on his own. He came out of the pits a couple of laps ago, taking a rather Steve Soper line across the grass.
Looks to be a retirement for
does, I'm
Richard,
afraid.
doesn't it?
It does. BMW at the top of the shot, car number 18, Harry Barton's 1800 TISA. Don't ask. Not sure quite what the S and the A mean, but I know what a TI is. In comes the car from second and the car from third. So Jan Mardenborough to hand over to Jimmy Broadbent will run round. And in two... no, this is Jan Mardenborough and Jimmy Broadbent's car, isn't it? So the car ahead of them was Nigel Greensel. Now there was somebody running around. Yeah, Nigel's out of the car, so John Spears is taking over. So that answers that question. So Nigel came in from second, or from first actually, because the leader had stopped Sam Tordhoff on the previous lap. Julian Thomas is in as well.
And to answer the question you kind of didn't ask, TISA, SA stands for Homologation Special.
Of course it does.
In German.
Yeah.
And it was the BMW that the factory built to the regulations for the Touring Car Championship at the time.
That orangey red Mustang you just saw Colin Selter is driving, and the other names, Tiffany Dale and Neil Jarney on it. That's because they raced it at Goodwood in the I imagine a St Mary's trophy, actually. There it goes, the Mustang. It's kind of orangey red. Tangerine, it's not really tangerine, is it? Not really mandarin, maybe.
Yes.
I don't know. It was probably called something like Awesome Orange or something in a 1960s Ford colour catalogue. Out goes the car that was in second with Nigel Greensall. John Spears now at the wheel, the darker blue of the Mustangs, and then the metallic blue Adrian Flux liveried Brustang. The Brundle Mustang comes out, and that will have the Jimmer at the wheel, Jimmy Broadbent.
Julian Thomas in the pits. It looks as though he, well, as we thought, he will be driving solo. Yeah,
we haven't seen any names aligned with him, in fact, all weekend, have we? Which is very unusual. We've had 2 or 3, in fact, we've had half a dozen retirements, a few more. Just saw Richard Duck pulling off, and he has not rejoined. Meanwhile, one of our Alphas is in the pit lane. And car number 1, 2, 3, Miles and Alex Poulton in their Julia TI Spider. That's a Super, rather. I was going to say that's not a Spider, but that's my eyes letting me down. And 113 is in as well. Max Lynn sharing with Rowan Lundy in that Lotus Cortina. So not sharing with his dad. Although it's quite possible that he might be paying some of the bills. Somebody was just being pushed away into the garage from the pit apron as well. I didn't quite see who. This is Rowan Lundy being strapped in. Meanwhile, back with Sam Tordoff, and that is the Brustang. So that is Jimmy Broadbent right behind Sam Tordoff. And so Nigel Greensall and John Spears' Mustang is
well ahead of them.
Aha!
Because of the additional time in the pits, because Sam Tordoff is an elite driver.
And Nigel Greensall's not? Is Nigel Greensall recognised as average?
No, because Nigel's sharing, his elite driver penalty was less. Sam's solo, so he's kind of got the worst of both worlds.
Gotcha. Hey, he's got the best of both worlds. He gets to drive this car entirely on his own, rather selfishly, for 45 sideways minutes. There is... I was going to say Nigel Greensall, I don't mean that, I mean John Spears. And here comes Sam Tordoff and Jimmy Broadbent.
And Julian Thomas also back in the mix as well, because it's him in the back of the shot there as they came on to, was it Hangar Straight they were coming on to? Yes, it was. Yeah. So he's come back in the mix as well.
Well, he's an owner driver as well, isn't he? So he's definitely what you would not consider as a pro driver, whereas Sam Tordoff, you know, ex-British touring car ace, and the likes of Nigel Greensall, Jan Mardenborough, they are, very much top flight drivers.
Yeah, and Guy Smith as well, being a top driver as you'd expect. He got a penalty as well, but he's not challenging for the overall win, but in class.
He's the only overall Le Mans winner on the grid. Have class winner on the grid. I'm sure Andy Prio's...
Yes, I agree.
Now he's an overall Nürburgring 24-hour winner, Andy Prio, for BMW. I'm not sure if he won his class outright at Le Mans. But anyway, a Ford factory driver, of course, among very many other things in the Ford GT programme. But here is the car that is doing the chasing, or the car that will be doing the leading. There is one car that is just stopped in the pit lane, so the next time he comes past the stripe, it will be John Spears who leads. Now, he took an unlikely race win against the head in his Maserati 250F yesterday against all those pesky little mid-engined Formula One cars. He's trying to find his way by this Alpha. And the novices cross, with no disrespect to the novice, he's going to have to give it, and did, a little bit of a berth, because he's never quite sure whether the Alpha's going to stay online or try and drive out of the way. Meanwhile, headlights ablaze, here comes Sam Tordoff, and he'll see the Alpha, recognise that it's going more slowly, and also see the novices cross, and he'll already be trying to figure, where am I going to get by him? Dare I dive bomb him at the apex of a corner? He's going to have to. He needs to get a hustle on. Sam Tordoff in second. Jimmy Broadbent in third in the paler Mustang.
And very appropriately, for the first time in the race, because Sam's led most of it, we've got a Mustang leading the Pure Michigan Mustang Celebration race.
14 minutes remaining. Will we get a Mustang victory? Well, we've just seen one of our leading Ford Falcon sprints retire with mechanical issues. So it's by no means guaranteed that the quickest car is also going to be the longest lived quickest car. But this thing was pretty flawless yesterday, wasn't it? As well as imperiously quick. John Spears taking over from Nigel Greensall. And the lead was 7.9 seconds at the end of the last lap. So remember that, we'll try and compare and contrast. There's Andy Priaulx at the wheel of the Bumblebee Mustang. Trying to go around the inside of car number 9. Not quite getting by Craig Davis there in one of the Alaman Racing livery cars.
Making their way through Club Corner, and Andrew Priaulx lining up Craig Davis for what he hopes is a pass as they go past a Mini there on the Hamilton Straight, isn't it?
That's going to be a bit of a fly in the ointment. I think they're going to get to the Mini just as they all want to turn in together. Not sure Priaulx's going to get through there, but we will wait and see. Mustang Cortina. So is this our lead Lotus Cortina battle? I think it is. 17 and 7-1-2. They're down in 21st and 20th. David Tomlin in 17. 7-1-2 coming back from behind. That is Peter Smith.
Got a hip and shoulder there from a Falcon, did Pete Smith.
Oh, and a monster lockup carrying way too much speed in Richard McAlpine. Oh dear, that's a lot of car to move, isn't it? That's Colin Sota's car. The ex-Tiffany Dale Neil Jarney, or driven by them. It's got a right front puncture. He's going to need his engine to help move it. So I imagine he's had a fairly dramatic looping spin there, probably as a result of that right front puncture, rather than the effect of the spin. However, back with our lead battle, there are yellow flags at the beginning of the lap, but not here. And this is Sam Tordoff all over the back of John Spears for the lead. It was down from 7.2 to 5 seconds at the beginning of this lap. That's not 5 seconds, that's a change of the lead on the Hangar Straight. Sam Tordoff goes by John Spears. The Flying Falcon sprints by. Another impressive drive in this car from Sam Tordoff. He makes it look like it's got has got relatively modern suspension. Certainly more modern and a bit less baggy than it would have been in period. But it is still a rocking and rolling device. 10 minutes to go, 11. So who is going to finish on the podium? Jimmy Broadbent, 4.3 behind John Spears. 2 seconds behind him is Julian Thomas. 2.7 behind him is car number 63, John Davison. So that could all close up with the yellow windscreen. That is David Tomlin. David, pretty sure, is our lead Lotus Cortina still. Trying to go by the Henry Mann driven Mustang, and he breaks clear as well. He's just put a little bit of clear air between himself and 712, and that is Pete Smith's car. And that break getting ahead of the Mustang, he's been bottled up behind it for 3 or 4 laps. And now he's broken free, and look at the difference it's made. Look at the difference, just 2 or 3 corners of that 1600cc Lotus's nimble handling through the Beckett's S's. And again, Pete Smith behind. Here comes the Falcon, just goes steaming by on the straight once more.
And I think after all the pit stops and the additional penalty for Guy Smith, he still leads those Cortinas.
Oh, you're right, I hadn't spotted him.
Yeah, he's so
far
ahead.
up the order, isn't he? 13th place, yes, he is. So Guy Smith, 7-11, is our lead Lotus Cortina. This is still an entertaining battle, though.
just found some more Lotus Cortina.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, Jonathan Mitchell is
Where
ahead.
were they hiding?
Giddings, of course,
Oh,
were now Strether in the 198 car, so apologies to them. They are actually Jake Giddings. Paul Strether now on board the 198 car, the sort of light, green coloured
olive
car.
Green and cream. So 7-11 here. This is Guy Smith. Got a good battle on his hands. And this is the Ross and Johnson Mustang. Matt Johnson and Robert Ross, who started out. I'm guessing Robert Ross started. Yes, he did. And this is ex-touring car driver Matt at the wheel. So touring car race and sports car race go head-to-head, toe-to-toe. And the Mustang, of course, has the legs on the Cortina. That small block Ford against the very much smaller block 1600cc Ford. Cortina giving away 4 cylinders and about 3 litres. But as you could see, Guy Smith could just drive around the outside of the Mustang through the Beckett's S's. And this is what we used to see, or what was seen in period, the Galaxies and the Lotus Cortinas versus the Minis. The Cortinas, quicker, more power, and the Minis braking even later. Dialing in the opposite lock, but not quickly enough to save that moment. Just about getting away with it, David Tomlin. Certainly without a spin. Whoa, Guy Smith taking to the scenery, using a bit of Oxfordshire on his way through to move up ahead of Matt Johnson. Momentarily, Johnson's going to be boxed in behind the Alfa, I think. And look at the way that the Cortina turns. It's really on the nose. Meanwhile, this is car number 14, and this is Simon Horobin and James Palmer's car. So I think you're right, in 10th place overall is the first of our Lotus Cortinas. It's the green car with the cream highlights rather than the white cars with the Lotus green bands. That's the classic Lotus Cortina colour. Julian Thomas in 3rd now, ahead of Jimmy Broadbent. We didn't see that happen. There's Andy Prio in 8th. And there is the lead Lotus Cortina behind Craig Davis. So that's the Giddings and Strether car, and who do you reckon started that?
Jake Giddings started, yeah. So Paul Strether now on board, and actually he is challenging for overall position, apart from his class leading position. Craig Davis in the big Mustang. Similar situation to Guy Smith, isn't it, where Paul Strether will be quicker in the corners, but the Mustang then pulls away on the straights with more power as they come into Beckett's.
And the real problem here is the start-finish line isn't just at the Chapel Curve, which is where you want it in a Lotus Cortina. It's after that long, fast hanger straight where everything that you've done is undone just because he's got more cylinders and more cubic capacity.
Guy Smith is 10. No, he's nearly 20 seconds behind Paul Strether. I was just wondering whether Guy Smith might be able to make up the time, but in 5 minutes, I think even Guy can't do that.
No.
Just about 20 seconds behind the class leader.
Well, 5.5 minutes to go. Sam Tordoff still leading as we watch this battle for 9th place. John Spears in 2nd in the best Mustang. Julian Thomas in 3rd in another Falcon. And then the next Mustang, Jimmy Broadbent in 4th. 5th place, John Davidson's Mustang, and Michael Whittaker Jr. also in a Mustang in 6th, ahead of the Shepherds, who by rights ought to be in a Mustang anytime they go out on track. Well, they are in this race. Bill Shepherd Mustang, one of the country's foremost Mustang specialists for, well, way more than quarter of a century, probably more like 30 or 40 years now. Obviously, since he was a boy. Here's Julian Thomas all over the back of John Spears, and right with him is Jimmy Broadbent. So this is 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Pocket handkerchief time here. 2 Mustangs with a Falcon in between. The Mercury Cyclone Comet coming towards us. Not quite as quick as the similar framed Falcon Sprint. comes from the same family. Mercury, a sub-brand of Ford, slightly different. Is it a J-body? I'm venturing a little bit out of my depth here now, but slightly different machinery. Possibly not as well developed as this Falcon and these Mustangs are. Chatted a lot to Alex Brundle about building his car, and he said essentially you start with the Mustang body shell, you take everything off it, and nothing Mustang goes back on. It is all pretty much purpose-built. Final 3 minutes 45 seconds. Here comes the challenge for Julian Thomas down the straight. Falcon can't quite squeeze inside, but John Spears braked late and offline, and through goes Julian Thomas. And there's the opportunity for Jimmy Broadbent as well. He's going to try and put the same pressure on John Spears, force Spears in the darker blue Mustang to defend, and then when he's gone in too deep or offline, try and go by him. And the same rules apply in real-life racing as do in sim racing, of course, where Jimmy Broadbent's got so much experience and so much success, and he goes around the outside. You see him really working the steering of that Mustang. That's a great move. Don't forget, this guy is a relatively inexperienced real-life race driver. And they are closing in, or being closed down now, by John Davison. So this is going to be quite a sort-out at the end of the race. Is that the Mercury Cyclone? I think it is.
No, it's a Falcon.
Oh, is that a Falcon? Yeah. Okay, yes, yeah.
Just off at Abbey by the looks of it. Hopefully that won't affect. There's the Cyclone in the background, I think.
Yeah, there's probably still a dozen Falcons going. Jimmy Broadbent ahead of John Spears and just starting to creep away. And in fact, the more he can do now and leave John Spears to hold up John Davison behind him in the Alaman Racing livery car, the red and gold Mustang, the better it'll be. There's Julian Thomas. And Thomas with a Mini attached to his back bumper. I think Mini drivers probably ought to just carry a bungee with them, and when a big car goes by, just hook on and hope nobody notices. And of course, all the big cars come by, and then they hit the brakes about 350 metres from the corner, and the Mini's selecting top gear, carries on for a bit, and then starts to brake. So it does take a while to get by a well-driven Mini, because they come back at you in the corners the same way they
just like
exactly that, the same way the Lotus Cortinas do. The problem for the Mini, of course, is that the big cars canter past on the straight and then slow the Mini right down, where the Mini's strength is in the corner. And if you've got a slow car or big car in front, a fast car in front, you can't use your handling prowess. And so in the end, the Mini gets lapped and the Mustangs go by. John Spears with John Davison's headlights in his mirror. Minute to go, so this will be the final lap. Sam Tordoff is already starting it. Julian Thomas in second will start his final lap in a moment or two. Then Jimmy Broadbent in third, and then this battle, John Spears and John Davison. If you can't quite read it on the side of that Mustang, what it says along the gold panel at the bottom is Alaman Racing Byfleet Surrey. Ooh, big moment for John Spears as he had to negotiate the Mini. Another little classic Britax Mini livery on that 54 car. Whose is that?
That's the Nairns.
Billy Nairn and Carl Nairn, yeah. Again, that's a sort of famous livery from Mini Racing Yore.
John Davison looking to go up the inside at the loop, but John Spears holds the line through there as they go out through Aintree onto the Wellington Straight, both using slightly more track than was intended. Down the straight, chasing Jimmy Broadbent into Brooklands. John Spears taking a slightly defensive line. This might give a chance to John Davison to cut back at Brooklands, but no, he also, I think they're basically running out of brakes now at the end of the Wellington Straight. They're just having to brake much earlier than normal as they turn through Luffield. Jimmy Broadbent starting to disappear into the distance. Great drive from him and Jan Mardenborough. Jimmy raced in the Praga Cup, which is a a sort of a sports car style one-make championship for a couple of years and won it. So he's got some experience, but as you say, relatively inexperienced.
Yeah, something with slicks and a bit of downforce.
Yes.
Neither of which are present on the Mustang. In fact, probably just the opposite.
Yes.
Very little grip and aero, positive aero, so they rise. Okay, so the leader on the hanger straight for the very final time. Here comes Sam Tordoff. Other than the pit stop, he has led every inch of the race. Started from pole position and raced away. It's been a very impressive outing for this car of Sam Tordoff. I'd love to have seen these cars in action twice over the weekend as well. Headlights ablaze, wants to make sure that everybody knows he's coming. So there's no mistakes on the way to the checkered flag. Qualified the car on pole position ahead of all his rivals. He was 1.3 seconds clear of them, and he wins in Silverstone. And it should be a Falcon 1-2, it will be, but not by much, and there's going to be a sort out. Second place does just go to Julian Thomas ahead of Jimmy Broadbent, and then John Spears ahead of John Davison, and then we're looking back for Michael Whittaker Jr. Loads of minis coming across the line in a bunch. There's Whittaker's Mustang. Stopped spitting flames now. They appear to have turned that function off. Right ahead of the Shepherds. And here comes Andy Prio in the Bumblebee Mustang. 99 in 8th. Car number 9 should be coming up next. And that will be Craig Davis in 9th place. There he is. Yeah, dialing in some opposite lock. And across the line in 10th place is the top Cortina. That pale green and cream car, the Giddings and Strether machine. Guy Smith in the blue Cortina, third in that 1600cc category. It looks like the Alpha is going to win its particular class as well, or are we just saying it because it's being very spectacular? Never mind seeing a car just because it's being very spectacular. There you go, there's an on four-square drift out of the final corner. And a bit of showboating. Now they don't need the rear tyres for racing, they can use them for showing off. I think this might just about be the time and place for some Alex Zanardi-style donuts. Because if you can't donut in these cars, what can you donut in? Might need to find a little bit of space to do it in. Sam Tordoff, the winner. Julian Thomas makes it a Ford Falcon Sprint 1-2 ahead of a sea of Mustangs in the Pure Michigan Mustang Celebration Trophy. It is Jimmy Broadbent and Jan Mardenborough, the digital gamers turned drivers who uphold the honour of the Ford Mustang. Well, if that doesn't win them holidays to Michigan, I don't know what will. They properly ought to be lauded back in Dearborn. Well, once more, great entertainment. These cars are just so much fun to watch. And here in the commentary booth, we're getting very little of the trackside sound effects either. I'm sure everybody around the circuit thoroughly enjoying the noise of these cars. The thunder of all the big American V8s, the howl of the Lotus Corner twin cams, the rasp of the minis on the overrun. And is it Dan Wheeler who takes the mini class? It is. Nice one, Dan. Car number 888, Dan Wheeler, a long-time mini racer. Raced in Mini 7s and latterly in historic minis, and he takes that victory. Well, what a sea of fabulous looking cars. You would give your right arm for any of them, wouldn't you? Never mind the chance to race them in this kind of company. Sam Tordoff led the field away from Jan Mardenborough. The Mustangs hard at it with the Galaxies, the Ford Cortinas battling the American muscle and each other, and the Minis snapping at the heels of the less aggressively driven big banger cars. There's an even battle between the Mustangs and the Falcons. Unfortunately, the grey car coming to a halt and bringing Tom Sharp's race to an end. But after the pit stops, Sam Tordoff getting ahead of John Spears. Little moment for David Tomlin. And so too Julian Thomas moving ahead of Spears. Jan Mardenborough, Jimmy Broadbent getting by him. Sam Tordoff, the comfortable winner, nearly 12 seconds ahead of Julian Thomas, who was just 2 tenths in front of Jimmy Broadbent. So a very good result for the Mustang. And in the collecting area, we should be able to hear from our top drivers. Let's catch up.
Thanks very much. Sam's just taken a slug of water. I don't blame him, really. You make that thing dance out there. It doesn't look like it should do what it can do.
No, and it's quite lively towards the end as well. The race was good. It was strong. Nigel kept me honest in the first stint. Really pushed, so probably harder than I would have liked to push, if I'm honest, and paid the price and lost a tyre in the second half of the race. But you know, spot on. The guy's done a great job again. That's 3 years on the bounce now. We've come here and won. So really thrilled. I'm delighted.
We don't get to see you racing as often as we'd like, really. You and a tin top is a good thing, Sam. It's always a good combination.
Yeah, you know, modern or historic, I love my touring cars. And you know, I get such a thrill from driving that you just can't replicate anywhere else. So really pleased with today, because the pressure was on, and hopefully we'll be back next year for some more.
Great stuff, well done. Let's go for a little wander as well. There's Sam there, our race winner. I can't see our second place, but I can see Jan Mardenborough, and I can also see Jimmy Broadbent. So let's just jump into Jan as we can, and also we got Alex here too. But let's go straight to Jan there. The first stint in the car, Jan, it was a tricky first stint. It was a tricky first corner, but other than that, it was relatively nice and smooth.
Yes, it was fantastic, and a big thank you to my teammate Jimmy and Alex Brunda Motorsports for allowing me to be gracious with this 65 Mustang, to have a good fun today. I've had a pretty busy weekend, visited different countries in between Friday and today, but to finish third in Top Mustang, and I tried to stay with these guys at the start of the race, but it wasn't to be, but had great fun.
It looked like it was a lot of fun. It looked like there were hard things to handle. I can't see where Jimmy's gone. Jimmy's gone over there. Let's go and grab Jimmy. He's just this way, extreme close up there on my nostrils. But Jimmy, it was nice, wasn't it? Jimmy, you got given the keys to the car. You had to really, you know, put your elbows out and get down and keep going.
Yeah, there were some really fast cars out there. I thought, okay, I'm in third. All right, that'll be easy. Then this guy overtakes me. Think, oh, okay, maybe not so easy. We were catching the blue Mustang for a while. Where I had to do something a bit silly around the outside of T1 to make it work, but I'm pumped after that. I was screaming in the car afterwards, like, this is the best form of racing. There's nothing better than this.
Really?
Yeah. 100%.
That's it.
Yeah, sorry, Bilstein.
There you go, the stamp of approval. Well done, well done. Third place, well done.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations to our podium finishers, Sam Tordoff and Julian Thomas in the Ford Falcons, and Jan Mardenborough and Jimmy Broadbent. That was a great race from them. If you look at who is behind them, how much historic racing experience and racing experience in these cars there is behind Mardenborough and Broadbent, that really underlines how good it is. And if I've managed to make the youth cringe as well a little bit with our not quite down with the kids references, then my job here is complete. The Ford Cortinas had a really good race with themselves as well, and who did we say? It was the Giddings car, wasn't it, that ended up as the top Cortina. And then further down, the top Mini, Dan Wheeler in 27th place, just ahead of Mark Burnett. So fantastic action, our penultimate race. Higher winds are coming. I've already said that unfortunately the Army's parachute display team, the Red Devils, won't be able to display. There was supposed to be a hot air balloon glow this evening, but again, it is going to be too gusty for them. I'm afraid that won't be happening. Music is on the stage though, so Ollie Murs will still be rounding out the evening tonight. The stage is already live. We have more music to come though, here on the track with our final race of the weekend.